Imagine this. You're driving down the street. Maybe you're late for work. Maybe someone cuts you off. Your pulse spikes. Your grip tightens on the wheel. We've all been there. It's called road rage. But usually you go home. You vent to your friends. You move on. But on a cold Friday afternoon in Tacoma, Washington, moving on wasn't an option. A simple traffic dispute didn't end with a honk or a middle finger. It ended with a 14-year-old boy bleeding out in a wrecked Kia and a 42-year-old man facing the rest of his life behind bars. Inquisitive? Energetic? Was it a cold-blooded execution of a child? Or was this man actually fighting for his life against a car full of teenagers? The defense says he was terrified. The prosecutor says he's a murderer. And the surveillance footage? Well, let's just say it changes everything. Buckle up, because this story is a bumpy ride. Let's rewind. It's December 5th, 2:57 p.m. The sun is still up on McKinley Avenue in Tacoma. It's a busy day. People are rushing around, doing their holiday shopping, picking kids up from school. It's normal, until it isn't. Police dispatch gets a call. It sounds like a standard crash. 2 cars involved, a 2020 Kia Sportage and a Scion XB. Officers rush to the 6400 block. When they arrive, they see the twisted metal. They see the shattered glass. But then, they see something that doesn't fit a fender bender. Inside the Kia, a 14-year-old boy is slumped over. He hasn't been hit by an airbag. He hasn't been cut by glass. He has a gunshot wound to the head. Wait, what? A car crash and a gunshot wound? The pieces weren't adding up. The boy is rushed to a local hospital fighting for his life. Tragically, he doesn't make it. A 14-year-old kid, gone, just like that. But here is where the mystery deepens. The police look around. The Kia had passengers, 4 of them. But by the time the cops arrive, they're gone. They bolted, ran off, leaving their friend behind. Why? Were they hiding something? Or were they running from something? While detectives are trying to make sense of this chaotic scene, a phone rings at the station. It's a lawyer. He's calling on behalf of a man named Nicholas Badger Prather, 42 years old, no criminal record, a regular guy. The lawyer basically says, my client was involved in that incident on McKinley. He's coming in. A few hours later, Prather walks into the Tacoma Police Department and surrenders. He's booked into the Pierce County Jail. The charge? First-degree murder. Bail is set at a staggering $1 million. Now, hold on. I know what you're thinking. First-degree murder? That implies premeditation. That implies he planned to kill this kid. How do you plan a murder during a random road rage incident? That's what Prather's lawyer, Brian Hirschman, wanted to know too. He stood up in court and said there wasn't, quote, one shred of information to prove this was planned. Here is the defense's story, and honestly, it sounds terrifying. According to Prather's team, he was driving his truck when he saw this Kia, driven by a 14-year-old, remember, driving like a maniac, swerving, speeding, reckless. Prather sees this kid driving dangerously. He's concerned. Who wouldn't be? But then things get personal. The defense claims that the passengers in the Kia weren't just driving bad, they were aggressive. They claim a passenger in the front seat threatened Prather. With what? Pepper spray. That's right, pepper spray. Prather's lawyer says the passenger shouted that he was going to blind him. Prather is sitting in his truck, windows down, thinking he's about to be incapacitated by a chemical weapon while driving a heavy vehicle. So he reacts. He pulls his firearm. He shoots. Self-defense. Plain and simple. Right? That's a solid story. It makes sense. Man defends himself from attack. But there's just one massive, glaring problem with Nicholas Prather's version of events, and it comes from the one witness that never lies.
Surveillance cameras. Nearby businesses on McKinley Avenue were rolling. And what they saw? It paints a very, very different picture than the one Prather's lawyer told the judge. This wasn't just a scared man reacting to a threat. This looked like hunting. Let's break down the tape. The footage shows the Kia waiting to turn, and right behind it, about a car length away, a large black truck, Prather's truck. The Kia isn't moving. The truck isn't moving. But look closer. The driver of the truck has his window down. He passes the Kia, and as he passes, witnesses and cameras catch a glimpse of an object. But he doesn't just drive away. The truck drives south, and the Kia stays put. For a moment, it's still. Then, panic. The Kia lurches forward, crashing into the Scion. Why? Because the driver had just been shot in the head. The passengers in the Kia, the ones who ran away, police caught up with them. And their story turns this whole self-defense claim on its head. They admitted the victim was driving recklessly. They admitted passing cars on shoulders and sidewalks. They were being stupid kids. Look, nobody is saying these kids were angels on the road. Driving on sidewalks? That's dangerous, that's stupid. But does it warrant a death sentence? The passengers told detectives that Prather wouldn't let them pass. It was an ego battle, a road rage duel. Eventually, the boy passes the truck in the center turn lane. But here is the million-dollar question. The prosecutor, Robert Yu, asked it best. Does someone have the justification to shoot another person just because they are driving recklessly? Or even if they have pepper spray? Is a gun the equal response to mace? The court had to decide if Prather was a victim of fear or a man with a fragile ego and a loaded gun. So the gun goes off, the boy is gone, the truck drives away. But the story doesn't end on McKinley Avenue. It moves to a place that's colder, quieter, and arguably just as brutal, the Pierce County Superior Court. Here is where things get messy. And I mean really messy. Because in the eyes of the law, shooting someone isn't always murder. Sometimes, it's justified. But to prove that, you need a story that holds water. And Nicholas Prather's attorney, Brian Hirschman, came out swinging with a defense that shocked everyone in the room. The charge is first-degree murder. In Washington state, that means the prosecution has to prove premeditation. They have to prove Prather thought about it, planned it, and executed it. But Attorney Hirschman? He looked at the judge and basically said, "You've got to be kidding me." He argued there was, quote, "not one shred of information in the charging documents to support the idea that this was planned." His argument was simple. How do you premeditate a chaotic road rage fight that happens in seconds? He painted Prather not as a killer, but as a concerned citizen. Picture this from the defense's perspective. You're a 42-year-old man. You look in your rearview mirror. You see a car swerving, driving on the sidewalk. You realize the driver is a child, a 14-year-old boy behind the wheel of a heavy machine. Hirschman said seeing that gave Prather cause for concern. Valid, right? But then, the pepper spray defense. This is the linchpin of the whole case. Hirschman argues that the passenger in the Kia didn't just threaten Prather, he was preparing to attack. He told the people in his own car he was going to spray Prather. He tried to do it. Now, pause. Ask yourself this question. If someone is about to blind you with chemicals while you are operating a vehicle, do you have the right to use lethal force? Is a bullet the equal and opposite reaction to pepper spray? That is the question that hung in the air of that courtroom. Prosecuting attorney Robert Yu wasn't buying it. Not for a second. He stood up and cut through the noise. His argument? Reckless driving is not a death warrant. You don't get to execute someone because they cut you off. You don't get to shoot a kid because he's driving like, well, a kid. And then, you dropped the bombshell? Remember those witness statements? The ones from the surviving passengers? They told police that Prather wasn't trying to get away. He wasn't cowering in fear. He allegedly told them to back up and come closer to his truck. Think about it. If you are terrified of a guy with pepper spray, do you invite him closer? Do you roll down your window and wait? Or do you hit the gas and get the heck out of there? The prosecution says Prather wasn't defending himself. He was inviting a conflict so he could finish it. While the lawyers were arguing theory, the detectives were dealing with cold, hard facts. They raided Prather's home. And what did they find? A firearm. Not just any firearm, but one that allegedly matched the brand and caliber of the ammunition used to kill the teen. The truck matched the surveillance. The gun matched the bullet. The suspect turned himself in. Physically, the case is a slam dunk. We know who pulled the trigger. The only mystery left is why. During the arraignment, the energy shifted. It wasn't just lawyers and judges. The victim's family was there. Can you imagine? Standing in the same room as the man accused of killing your 14-year-old son, hearing his lawyer argue that he was the victim? The tension must have been suffocating. Pro Tem Court Commissioner Megan Foley had heard enough. She reminded everyone that this wasn't the trial. She wasn't there to decide guilt or innocence yet. But she did decide one thing. She found probable cause for the charges. She set bail at a massive $1 million. Prather entered a plea of not guilty. This leaves us with a tragedy that feels completely avoidable. On one side, you have a group of teens making stupid, dangerous choices on the road. On the other, a man who allegedly let his anger, or his fear, take control of a deadly weapon. Two paths crossed on McKinley Avenue, and in a split second, 2 lives were destroyed. One is in the morgue, the other is likely in a cell for a very long time. I need to know what you think. Seriously, put yourself in that jury box. If you believe the passengers threatened him with pepper spray, do you vote not guilty for self-defense? Or do you agree with the prosecutor that inviting them closer proves it was murder? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single one. Cases like this are complicated, and we're going to be following this trial as it develops. If you want to stay updated on the verdict and see more deep dives into the cases the news won't explain, hit that like button and subscribe. It helps the channel a ton. And join us tomorrow, because there is another story breaking out of Florida where a simple doorbell camera caught something that police say is impossible. You don't want to miss that. Stay safe, drive safe, and I'll see you in the next one.